Helping us answer some of these questions tonight is attorney Larry Edge, who specializes in bankruptcy law. And Larry, I'm curious, I've always heard that the biggest driver of bankruptcies is medical debt. Is that true? And what percentage would you say that's the cause for someone to having to file bankruptcy?
It is a very big cause. Medical debt is probably one of the biggest causes. If you percentage-wise, I mean, greater than 50% we see medical debt. But you know, the big three reasons are medical debt, job loss, or catastrophic, you know, life change such as divorce, something like that. That's the big, you know, the big three right there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and Andrea, I mean, think about this. If you do not have health insurance, okay, no Blue Cross, no, you know, Medicare, Medicaid, or whatever. And if let's say you're in any kind of an accident, it doesn't matter what it is, whether it's your fault, the other person's fault, whether it's a car wreck, slip and fall, on the job injury, you know, whatever it is. And if you have, you know, let's say if you have to go to the hospital, you know, one of the local hospitals, and you're in the hospital for 2 or 3 days, your medical bills are going to be $50,000 to $60,000 to $100,000 at a minimum. And so they're going to come after you. They're not just going to say, hey, we're sorry you don't have medical insurance. They're going to come after you. And if you don't have that coverage, and if, you know, and let's say you lose your job because you can't work, well, you've got to do something. And that's what Larry's talking about, where a lot of times people have to file bankruptcy. And it's not because, you know, and I hear this a lot, well, people are just lazy, they don't want to work, you know, they just want to get out of their debts and they, you know, get out of their bills. That's not the case. You know, it's where hard-working people, they do not, for whatever reason, have medical insurance. They get involved in a bad accident, and then, you know, they have to do something to be able to pay their bills. And it's a shame, but that's the reality of what's going on right now.
Well, and Larry, I'm curious.
I'm sorry, that's exactly right. I've been practicing bankruptcy law for 20-plus years, and you know, I could count the number of times on one hand there was just somebody that, you know, was frivolous with their bills. It's usually those reasons. It's hardworking people had something happen to them.
Well, and Larry, you know, Bill was talking about people who are uninsured with the medical debt, but I'm curious about people who are insured who may get an astronomical surprise bill. You know, I've reported on, you know, say an air ambulance bill that can be $50,000, $60,000 that your insurance isn't going to cover. Well, who has 50, 60K to come out of pocket to pay that bill, or other surprise bills that people receive, you know, from hospitals. I got one a couple years ago taking my son to the ER, and it turned out that, you know, even though we had insurance, that particular doctor at the ER wasn't covered in our plan. So I had to kind of fight to get that covered. So I'm curious about that aspect. How much of bankruptcy do you see from people who do have insurance, but maybe they get these surprise bills and they can't cover them?
You always go to try to work those out if you can, but you do, you know, like you say, there's gaps in coverage, or there's that out of market provider that, you know, some of those surprise bills can grow rather large, and, you know, they can lead to people filing bankruptcy.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So it happens. Yeah.
No, yes, it does happen, but, you know, the bottom line, if you're covered, and even if there's, you know, some kind of discrepancy, typically you can get that resolved. But, you know, the poor people that cannot, if they cannot for some reason be able to cover those bills, and then they're just left. I mean, they're left out in the cold for whatever reason, and they cannot pay their bills, and then, you know, they're getting sued and this and that. You know, sometimes bankruptcy is the only way to go in a situation like that.
All right.